Hey there, everyone. That sexy nerd is back again, and I'm finally ahead of Giuseppe Garibaldi. So, I thought we'd start here. I am actually behind with Nostalgia Critic, but I will be doing that after this video. So, hey, everything's getting finished off today. So, yeah, I don't know if this is the final part. If they decide to make a sixth part or something like that, or something. Who knows? But I feel like we're getting onto Napoleon and we're getting onto Italian unification. I feel like we might need a sixth part to really explain that. But who the hell knows? But anyway, I love the way this is going so far, and I hope they really stick the landing on this one. And not much else to say, but please smash that like button if you want to see more sexy and nerdy content, and subscribe. I think I deserve it. And remember, sign up for my Patreon for full-length reactions to all my latest videos. I did just finish Inside Out 2, and that is already on Patreon, but it will be coming on YouTube in the next couple of days, hopefully, because it's downloading right now and it's still taking forever. So, but I'm trying. So let's get into it, y'all.
1859. They're called the Hunters of the Alps, aggressive guerrilla fighters who slip into the high peaks, engaging the enemy in wind-chilled villages and mountain passes. No. And they've come from all across Italy, volunteers, revolutionaries, patriots, to fight a war of liberation. Now, after a protracted standoff, Austria has invaded Piedmont, Sardinia. But these men did not volunteer to fight for King Victor Emmanuel, nor his French allies who have vowed to repulse Austria. No. They came to fight for a man said to perform miracles, like taking off his shirt after battles to shake enemy bullets out, the cloth punctured but his skin unmarked. They come to fight with Garibaldi, and soon 1,000 of them will become legends as well.
He came up with a whole bunch of bullshit. He hid those bullets in his shirt. He was like, oh God, I can't believe my life was nearly taken away again. And they're like, Santa Maria.
Not only help make our extra history videos possible, but also vote to select topics we cover, like the Garibaldi series you're watching right now. Learn how you can get in on that historic action after the episode. Woo! Ironically, the Italians themselves played a junior role during the Second War of Italian Unification. The major fighting took place between the French and the Austrians at 2 bloody battles. The first French victory became so famous that a newly developed color was named after it, magenta, while the second proved so inhumane that it inspired color was named after.
Why? Because all of them are purple? Yeah, magenta's the color purple, right? How did that come up with that color before they fought in that war? Why is this video hilarious already?
Magenta, while the second proved so inhumane that it inspired the creation of the Red Cross and the Geneva Conventions. But the victorious Napoleon III was so appalled by the losses of life that he brokered immediate peace with Austria, prematurely ending the war against the wishes of Piedmont, Sardinia. But Napoleon III did not care, for he was deeply disappointed with his allies. The Piedmontese army had performed badly, largely due to King Victor Emmanuel II taking personal command. And Napoleon wasn't the only one disappointed with Piedmontese leadership. Garibaldi had joined the army only to find that Victor Emmanuel and Cavour used his reputation to attract volunteers, then skimmed the best recruits for the regular army and sent Garibaldi's guerrilla unit, the Rejects. In truth, the Piedmontese government worried that if Garibaldi performed too well, his cult of personality would be a threat to the dominant positions they wanted once Italy formed. And they were right to worry, because Garibaldi turned those 3,000 Rejects into crack Alpine skirmishers.
Really?
The Hunters of the Alps.
I had a feeling.
Fought only small battles, blocking passes and tying down Austrian troops, but he won. Yet, since Piedmont Sardinia was the junior partner, Napoleon set the peace terms. Piedmont Sardinia annexed Lombardy and was left occupying Tuscany, Parma, and Reggio. Though this effectively made Victor Emmanuel the king of northern Italy, he fell short of his objective to acquire Venice. And due to Cavour's secret arrangement with Napoleon, Cavour did have to give France something it wanted: Savoy, plus Garibaldi's hometown of Nice. This betrayal, deep and personal, made Cavour Garibaldi's lifelong enemy, and his disillusionment did not stop there. Garibaldi's men had expected to be treated like liberators during the war, but he mostly found the people to be hostile to what was, in effect, a Piedmontese takeover. Soon, officials imposed Piedmontese laws and government in the new territory, often sweeping away more liberal regimes. Garibaldi was adrift, angry, and considering leading an uprising in Nice, but he instead went to a different war. For various forces were beginning to circle the idea of an uprising in Sicily, one where Garibaldi could intervene, then go on to capture the entire Kingdom of the Two Sicilies and its capital Naples. Among the greatest proponents of this plan was Mazzini, still in exile, who hoped Garibaldi's arrival could create a liberal republic in the south. Victor Emmanuel also secretly approved, since he believed Garibaldi would give him Sicily after conquering it. Cavour, however, was more nervous. He feared Garibaldi would carry on to Rome and the Papal States, pitting Piedmont Sardinia against its ally Napoleon III, who saw himself as a protector of the papacy. So, when Sicily revolted and Garibaldi's small flotilla of volunteers landed on the island, he did so with private assurances that he had the king's support, but no official backing from Piedmont Sardinia. In fact, to keep up appearances, their navy was ordered to stop him. Therefore, he didn't have crack troops or modern arms. Instead, he had a force of 1,100 highly motivated guerrillas, the Expedition of the Thousand. Though in truth he had a bit more than that, because the expedition landed on Sicily between two British ships that just happened to be there, which prevented Bourbon forces from bombarding them for fear of causing an international incident. This, along with the fact that the expedition was funded by private donations from British supporters, have led to long-term rumors that Britain clandestinely supported Garibaldi.
Really? Patricio.
But truly his greatest supporters were the press. Garibaldi embedded journalists in his command, giving generous interviews, sitting for photographs, and occasionally persuading them to act as spies. The Thousand moved inland, swelling with squads of Sicilian rebels. As he marched for Palermo, Garibaldi gave speeches promising liberal land reforms that would break the power of the Sicilian landlords and an end to the Bourbon regime of unpopular taxes. But the conquest would not be as easy as the landings. At his first engagement, the Bourbon army withdrew to a hill and pinned the pursuing red shirts behind stone walls. Garibaldi then tried to coax a charge, yelling, "Here we make Italy or die!" At which point a rock arced down and thumped Garibaldi in the chest. "They're throwing rocks!" he yelled, changing tactics. "They're almost out of ammunition!" That did it. His red shirts swarmed up the hill into murderous volleys and swirling melee. It was a costly victory, one where even Garibaldi's eldest son Menotti, who escaped soldiers in Brazil as a newborn, was wounded. But it was a victory, because despite possessing vast superiority in numbers and firepower, the Bourbon commanders were incompetent, overcautious old men who'd gained their positions via nepotism. Where Garibaldi couldn't match their numbers, he outmaneuvered them, using the guerrilla tactics he'd perfected in South America and the Alps. And after brutal street fighting and a tense standoff, he secured Palermo. He took it under the title of dictator, though, greeted at times like a saint, with peasants falling to their knees in his presence or weeping. Yet soon he found tension between his rhetoric and political pragmatism. Garibaldi promised land reforms that never came, and when mobs attacked and killed several rich landowners, he ended up siding with the abusive landlords and had the rebels shot.
What?
The rich men would be needed, after all, to assist in the unification with Piedmont. Indeed.
I remember in Game of Thrones, Tyrion went to, how was that? Ruling without the rich. You know, you do need the rich to do that, as much as I hate the rich, and you know how bad they are for society. You do need them to fulfill your causes, and you need them on your side.
Though still applauded as a liberal revolutionary among the public and press, Garibaldi increasingly behaved as a knowing agent of the monarchists. Perhaps due to his experiences with the Roman Republic, he had come to believe that a strongman dictator would be needed to unify the country, and that Victor Emmanuel was that man. He would sacrifice his Republican dreams on the altar of unification. And to that end, he took his now large force of volunteers across the strait to southern Italy, skillfully outmaneuvering the Bourbon forces, while reportedly using the occasional bribe to clear his path north to Naples. Cavour, ever sneaky, sent a Piedmontese army to support the king of the two Sicilies against this rogue commander, only to reveal at the last minute that he was there to support Garibaldi, not arrest him. By the time Garibaldi took the Bourbon capital and ejected its king, his force was 20,000 strong, and he was one of the most famous men in Europe. At this point, he could have, theoretically, declared himself ruler and become king of the South, but he did not. Instead, Garibaldi held a highly suspect popular vote in Naples on whether to join Piedmont. The motion passed. Afterwards, Garibaldi met Victor Emmanuel on horseback. The two shook hands, the general symbolically transferring his power over southern Italy to the monarch. Then Garibaldi went home to his farm. He was there, watching from afar, when Victor Emmanuel declared the Kingdom of Italy in 1861. Oddly enough, that same year, Garibaldi also declined an offer from Abraham Lincoln to take up a major command in the Union Army. They couldn't agree on terms. But Garibaldi did not disappear, for Italy was not yet complete. Venice and the Papal States were still to be won. So in 1863, when a popular movement declared that Italians would seize Rome under the motto, Rome or Death, he gathered 2,000 volunteers and marched on the city. There they were met, ironically, by the Italian army, under orders to shield the Pope. While Garibaldi told his volunteers not to fire on fellow Italians, his fellow Italians fired on him. Wounded in the ankle and briefly arrested, he was allowed to return home. Yet he'd emerge 3 more times despite increasing age. Once as a commander in the Third War of Unification, then in another failed attempt to capture Rome, and finally in the Franco-Prussian War. But truly, these struggles were footnotes. For in the end, Rome and Venice were won for Italy via political maneuverings and negotiations, not bayonets. In his last days, his vision of Italy fulfilled, he asked the nurse that he'd, recently married, to put him at the window where he could look at the sea as his vision faded. He had made a nation, but lost his homeland, preached liberal values, yet empowered monarchists, been both a rebel and dictator. Truly, a hero of 2 worlds. He was Garibaldi.
And of course, I have been your narrator, Matt.
Wow. His name is Matt too? I didn't know that. Yeah, that's funny. I didn't know the guy's name was Matt too. But yeah, great, fantastic. I loved it. I wish he went into a little bit more detail on it, but pretty well wrapped up. But there was a lot more going on than what Garibaldi had, decided to do. Garibaldi, I guess, was like he was like the cog in the wheel of Italian unification, because obviously it wasn't all about him. Napoleon, that's been like a deal. There was like some sort of deal. I can't remember which, but yeah, I love everything about this. And imagine if Oversimplified did something like this. It would be really cool. But let me know what you thought about this episode, and please smash that like button if you want to see more sexy and nerdy content, and subscribe if you think I deserve it. And remember, check out my Patreon for my full-length reactions to all my latest videos. And I'll see you all in the next episode.